Mountain West Hoops, we're doing it again. The same background. They call it Wyoming week last week. It's carried over into this week. We still have the yellow and brown. They're making it look real good right now. It's not quite
Yeah,
like sometimes in
for
the
sure.
stand, I look around, I'm like, that's not a good combination. But the uniform and the gear that they're doing right now in Wyoming, they're doing it right. So shout out to Wyoming on that. But we have the 1-0 head coach, I believe, or is it 2-0 now? I have to ask him. I think it may be two. I think he snuck one last year, so we'll have to ask him about that. But the sitting head coach, acting head coach, whatever they call it when your head coach gets ejected in the first 5 minutes of the game, Coach DeWeese in the building. Coach, what up?
Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, we're hyped to have you on, man. We got to hear about it. We got to hear about it. We got to hear about it. So I'll lead off. I'll get out of the way and let Eli take over. I would say take us through, but let's just take us through the point when you realize that coach was getting ejected. And then no, let me just paint the picture. So literally, I think all of it happened within like game time, 15 seconds,
Yeah,
real time, maybe 2 minutes, maybe.
it was pretty
So
quick.
yeah, how I remember it is offensive foul on EK, does a spin, gets a little bit of elbow contact, but not an offensive foul. Not for a guy like that. Not an offensive foul. And even if it was, okay, we'll give you one. But then he comes down and he's on defense. Other teams' guys running, and he kind of gives them a little bit of a little nudge, a
Little
little like,
tap.
"Hey, we're here. I'm here." But it's a physical game. It has nothing to do with the play. The ball hasn't been entered. They're not trying to feed it to the post. Like it's literally something that happens all game long, all the time. And so he gets his second.
Right.
So we're just into the game. Coach Linder is hot about the first. He's extremely hot about the second because he knows everything that's going on. Now, meanwhile, Maldonado had a small injury. Nobody knows if he's coming back yet or not. So he's off somewhere. So you literally have your best, the highest scoring duo in the country is off the floor. Coach Linder gets his first tee. And the way I remember it, you guys were in the timeout, because the media timeout. And next thing you know, it's like people are coming back to the floor and he's gone. Like he's not,
Yeah.
he's there throwing him out. So that's how I remember it. Take us through what you, what was going through your head when you realized, like, all right, well, I guess I got a coach.
No, that's a pretty good synopsis, I think. So ultimately, I mean, we got the first one, and Coach Linder doesn't get technical fouls very often,
Yeah.
and he's got a lot of really good self control, and he understands when to push the limit and how to fight for our guys, but not to fight too hard, and
Right.
and he's really really good at pushing that line and working the refs like most good head coaches do, and so the Coach Vanderver and Coach Wicks are back there holding them back and kind of making sure he gets away. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go to the huddle while they're dealing with that, and they'll be fine. They'll get him, and he'll kind of stop. And I turn around and I look back and like literally I'm right when I'm saying like, all right, he's good. They got him. This is gonna be the end. And he's out there like a little slot receiver, shucking those dudes and getting by them. And they're big old dudes, man. So he had to move to get around those guys. So they did the best they could, and I'm in the huddle like trying to just tell the guys and hey, let's stay together, and trying to kind of get everything calmed down a little bit. And then I turn around and look over my shoulder, and official is going to the table, and he says, "You're out of here." And I was like, "Wait," I had to kind of double take and wait, what? And so it kind of hit us pretty quick. And I kind of told the media last night after the game, I think you never want to see that happen, because when you have an elite, which I think, and obviously I'm biased, but I think a lot of people would agree with me, one of the elite coaches in college basketball today, and Jeff Linder, like
He's
you,
proving it now. So if you
yeah,
don't think it, then something's wrong with you. But keep going. Sorry.
you want him on the floor, like hey, I mean, I hopefully one day I'll get a chance to be a head coach, but I don't want it to be in that situation. I want my head coach on the floor, and I want him to do his thing because he's as good as anybody in the country, but sometimes those things happen. You get thrust in that situation, and for us, we were a little bit flat to start, and I think it kind of was just the push we needed to get us going and give us some life.
Yeah, a little bit of that flatness has to do with this NBA schedule. Not only 4 games in 8 days, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, but also 4 games in 8 days that are all NCAA tournament caliber teams and really projected teams. So
Yeah,
all of them in top 55 in the net, all in a row, some home, some away, traveling between
Yeah.
class. What can you say about this team? What did you learn about this team? I know you already knew you were good, but what did last night coaching that team, seeing the player leadership happen, knowing that some of you, like you've already said, is like, let me get out of the way, but to see them come together, I thought last night the huddles were the tightest I've ever seen them have. It was very
Yeah.
noticeable significantly. And there was a lot of adversity that game. Ike was out the whole first half, and then Maldonado comes back from this injury, and there's overtime, and you end the game and the overtime with stops. So, what did you learn about your team, or what did you think that they may have responded? You probably felt confident, but what did you learn about your team even through all that?
I think something that we've kind of, and not just from that game, but we've learned that they had all year because we've had so many of these games that have been so tight down the stretch. But we know that these guys, they have a self belief, and they have, I think the best word is like a resiliency about, regardless of what kind of adversity they face from game to game, that they just feel like they're the most together team. They feel like whoever they play, they're the toughest team. May not always be the best team, whatever our matchup is, but they feel like they're the most together and the most tough team. And we coach them hard. They get coached hard every day in practice. They're held accountable every day. It's not all pats on the backs and cupcakes. And so they haven't had it easy. And they know we've been through it, and so they know that any kind of situation they can be in a game is no different than anything we've created in practice. But they're so together. They play for each other. Even the guys, they know that Graham and Hunter are really, really talented players. It's not always easy to play with guys that get that much of high usage rate and that many touches, but they know that those guys are about the right stuff, and so there's no jealousy or issues with that. I mean, it's just they just want to win, and they just find ways to win tough, gritty games.
What was the resiliency like after that first 4 or 5 minutes with all the chaos that happened? I know we had Graham and Hunter on, and they spoke a little bit how it really wasn't, there was no blinking, there wasn't really missing a beat, even though they were kind of disoriented with what was going on with them losing Linder. How do you think this team is prepared to be in moments like those? Because to be honest, everyone's going to maybe not face that sequence, but is going to face a sequence these next few weeks where things really go off the rails a little bit, and you have to kind of come together. So where do you think this all comes to be?
Well, I mean, the first place it starts, the origin is in recruiting, and it's recruiting guys that have great character. And one thing that we look for in a kind of a buzzword, I guess you could say, that we use is care factor, and we try and recruit guys that care, and so that's where it starts. And then when you put them together and you have a collective group of guys that have great care and great character, then those things, like, they just know, like, hey, we're going to do what it takes. And in that first huddle, in that media time, I mean, like I said, there was no blinking, no wavering. It was, we're going to find a way to get this done. We got it. And I mean, it just kind of an unflappable confidence that they're going to handle adversity the right way, not just amongst the coaching staff or the coaches and the players, but just the players just themselves, that they just know they're going to find a way to get it done, and they know they're going to do what it takes.
So on the opposite side of the coin, there's also the factor of how do you handle success? How do you handle being 20-3 and having media outlets write about you and having your name in bracket and things like that? How does that not become a distraction? How do you have the players kind of lock in and not be focused too far down the road of what the season may turn into?
Yeah, and that's certainly a challenge. There's no question. That's a great question. I mean, I think for each guy, it's probably a little bit different individually. And there's probably certain guys that you can maybe talk to about our net rankings, whatever, and they can kind of handle that. And some guys that it kind of can be a lot with them, or maybe get a little bit obsessed with worrying about it or looking at it. I think for us, it's just, and you hear coaches say this kind of stuff all the time, but for us, it's just about focusing on the next game and controlling what we can control. And those are just so cliche, but there's no other way to put it. Because that is all you can control, is what's here and now. So, like, right now, I mean, all that matters, doesn't matter that, yeah, we beat Utah State last night, and that was a really good win for us, and we've had a bunch of great wins this year. But, like, nobody cares if we go to San Jose on Saturday and don't show up. And So it's just focusing on the process of what is the next game, what's the next opponent, what's the next task that we have to accomplish.
What's competing in the conference like this year, given just the top heaviness, but even going to the pit with Jalen House there, Air Force is much improved. Tim Miles coaching SGSU. It's not only the top, but it's the bottom too. And just what is this like competing in a year like this in the Mountain West?
It's brutal. It's brutal, and obviously the league lost a bunch of really good players. I mean, some pretty big stars, not just last year, but the last several years, and several guys been drafted, stuff like that. But I think it speaks to the caliber of programs. I think it speaks to the caliber of coaches. We've got a lot of great coaches in the league. Obviously, the talent's the talent. I mean, it's Mountain West has had good players for a long time, and it seems just to reload every year. I mean, when you look at the league from top to bottom, you can't help but talk about, like everybody else likes to talk about, guys like David Roddy and Orlando Robinson and Bryce Hamilton. I mean, there's so many good players, and you even mentioned the guys in New Mexico, and their record's not great, but you don't want to see those guys. I mean, we're not looking forward to going to the pit next week because between Mashburn and House, I mean, those guys they're tough guards, and you got to go play in front of however many people they're getting in the pit these days, and it's one of the hardest places to play in the country, even when they're not great. So we have a ton of respect as a staff and as a program for the other programs in the league. I think San Jose and Air Force and New Mexico really kind of taking a step up from last year. Has really helped when you talk about some of the metrics and the numbers. What those programs were able to do in the non-conference compared to what they did last year has really helped all of us. And I think they're a little bit of the unsung heroes of what the league is doing right now, because if it was like last year, we'd be hurt by playing those games, and it's not nearly as much. But so I have a ton of respect for what all those programs have done. I mean, they've all gotten significantly better, and I mean, there's no easy night. There's no easy out, and you can say, well, we're rolling into wherever, and we'll just be okay as long as we show up. I mean, it is a bona fide high level league with high level players and high level coaches, and really high level environments every night that you're going to. I mean, it's a fun league.
Yeah, speaking of environments, obviously the Dome of Doom moniker is certainly back in full force, and it's been loud there these last handful of games. What's it been like coaching in the full AA and having this home court advantage and just being in front of these fans?
It's awesome. I mean, our fans have been phenomenal. And I think last year being our first year, I think people were kind of excited about the change, and wanted to really get behind us. But then obviously with COVID, we had a period we were able to have fans, then we couldn't again, and then we could again, and it was, I think for fans and spectators of the college basketball in general, and probably just sports in general, it's been a challenging time, because now you have, even right now you still have rules about, well, you can do this at this place, or some people have limited attendance, and it's been a tough time for the world, unfortunately. But I think people want to get back to it, as we can see, and I mean, college basketball is just it's on fire this year. I mean, every time I turn on the TV, I'm watching a game. And it doesn't have to be, Duke, North Carolina. It could be, look at the Auburn Arkansas game last night. I mean, obviously it's number one versus an Arkansas team that's got a passionate fan base, but that thing's rocking, man. And that's what's beautiful about college basketball. And it's a fun game. I mean, basketball is great in general because it keeps your attention. It's constantly moving. You have to pay attention. But when you have a lot of bodies in there, and there's a buzz, and there's an energy and electricity in these arenas. I mean, there's no better experience than going to a high level college basketball game with a full arena. And the people here, I mean, we can't say enough about them. They've really gotten behind us. Our students have really stepped up. That was a challenge for us a little bit last year, and we were getting amazing student turnout. I mean, we're out there warm ups. There's 60 on the clock, 60 minutes on the clock before tip. Warm ups are just getting going. And then here come the students down, they're coming in, they're getting let in. I mean, so we're warming up for an hour with a full student section. And I think our guys feed off that. As coaches, we feed off that. And I think, we really appreciate the support as a program. And it just makes everything a lot more fun. And when this place gets going now, you don't want to come to Laradice and play in the Dome of Doom once it gets going.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I think in particular with this team that stands out from a statistical perspective is the improvement on the defensive end. And last year, I mean, we talked to you last year, and you joked about it, where the defense was at. And I mean, the numbers say where it was at. It was 301st nationally in defensive efficiency. I know you guys know that and have referenced that. Now it's top 90, top 100 nationally. So a huge sizable leap, and probably still not where you want to be, just given where coaches are and the mindset and things like that. But clearly a sizable leap on that end. What would you say has been a factor in that? What would you say has been the focus, and just how does a team like this go from one of the weaker defensive teams nationally to one of the stronger ones in this conference?
Well, it started with us having time and the ability. I mean, obviously, taking over the program during the height of COVID protocol stuff, there was very little we could do, and we kind of had to piece together things, from a social distancing standpoint, things like that, and we never really felt like we got a chance to kind of hammer home our principles of who we are and what we want to do. We talked about it, till we were blue in the face, and showed film and did, tried to modify things the best that we can or the best that we could. But there was only so much you could do. And I think once things kind of got somewhat normal last spring after the season, and we had a little bit more freedom within the parameters that we were allowed to do things. I mean, that was pretty much all we focused on is knowing that we had to be better in ball screen coverage, knowing that we had to be better defensive rebounding, and knowing we had to be better guarding the ball. And, to the credit of our players, I mean, they've completely bought into it. They take pride in it. I mean, this is something that every coach in America will probably tell you, but I mean, we're so big on trying to hold opponents under 40% from the field. Obviously, just like we've done in the past, and we talked about before about trying to limit, three-point attempts and just three-point makes overall are huge factors for us. But I think the biggest process was just our guys just really buying in and knowing, like, okay, they want to win. They know we're going to be talented offensively, but we know that we can't have a chance to compete in the league, much less have a chance to go win the league, if we can't be a team that's one of the top 3 defensive teams in the Mountain West. And there's some pretty good defensive teams in this league. I mean, historically too, and and there's some teams in this league that probably don't get enough credit for how good they are defensively. But I feel like we've kind of gotten into that top 3 conversation. It's at least a conversation now. It's not just a farce that we could talk about it. But we're really pleased with the guys, and still got a lot of work to do. Like you said, we're never all the way there.
I think one of the things we talked about with Coach Linder, and one of the things he referenced was just the overall length and just how tall this team is, and just that kind of imposing nature. I believe top 10 or top 15 in height nationally. It's a huge deal. Is that something that, as far as recruiting goes, is that something that you established, that you wanted this team to be a lengthy team or have that versatility, or is it just kind of naturally how things came to be?
A little bit of both. I mean, I think if you talk to any coach in Division I basketball, or just in basketball in general, you want to be as long and tall as you can. But you can't do that at the expense of good players. You can't just be tall to be tall or long to be long. I think we've been fortunate to kind of get this roster together, not specifically like, hey, let's not get anybody below 6'3". But for me personally, and being a small part of assembling the roster, this is like my dream roster. I mean, and sorry to all the sub 6 foot players out there. I've always been someone that's been obsessed with size and length, and tried to put together the longest, tallest rosters I could in recruiting the part that I play in it. But it kind of just came together a little bit, and we're fortunate to have some guys with great size and length that are really good players, and they can bounce it and can dribble, pass, and shoot. And that's the challenge. And I think that gives us a chance, and especially if we're fortunate enough to continue to win and have a chance to play in the NCAA tournament, to where we can match with a lot of people, because we're the same size. I mean, I think when we played Stanford this year in the Diamond Head Classic, when we opened that event, I want to say they're like the 4th, the highest average height in Division I, and we're like 6th or 7th. I mean, it was like one of the biggest matchup games as far as the average height that you were going to have all year in Division I, which is kind of cool. And I loved it. Like, that's what I want to see. I like that as kind of, that's kind of one of my weird coaching things. But no, we try and get the biggest guys we can, but they still have to fit, and they still have to be able to do what we need them to do. And we're just fortunate that we've got a roster of those guys right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in and go back. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I'm gonna rough it. All right, so bear with me. But at UNC, prior to getting there, they won 10 games. At Wyoming, prior to getting there, they won 9. and here you are at UNC. You went 26-12. Shortly thereafter, getting the job within the first 2
Yeah,
years.
year two.
I was gonna say,
Year one, I think we won 11 in year one at UNC, and with 7 scholarship players.
Yeah, so and then you win CIT championship. If I'm not mistaken, is that what it's called? CBI?
CIT national championship, man. We were the national champs.
That's what I thought. I was just making sure, national champs. I thought I had it right. Just making sure.
School record for wins too.
Yeah. School record for wins. See, there you go, Eli. Getting the analytics and the numbers. That's what I need. And me and Kenny have a little bit of national championship background. We both worked at UTEP, so we know a little about that national championship swagger. We didn't actually win one, but you guys did. So that happens in 2 years. Then the next time you go to take over Wyoming, they had won 9 games before. You have this freshman of the year, so everybody's like, "Oh, they have promise." People don't realize how good Graham Ike is. He didn't play most of the year. So then next thing you know, year 2, people are like, "Well, they're missing the freshman of the year." Blah 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 blah. And then you guys are now already at 20 wins, right outside the top 25. There's something in this formula with you and Linder. Obviously, Linder gets all the credit he should get, but there's assistant coaches. I've been an assistant. I know how important assistants are. You showed a lot last night, along with Sundance Wicks and Coach V, to be able to keep everything together. I guess just talk about what is it about Coach Linder and what have you experienced with him to do that at such a fast rate? People talk about building it, but even when they build it, they don't necessarily build it to tournament status or national championship status or school record win status. This is different. So talk a little bit about that if you don't mind.
I mean, I can't say enough about Jeff Linder. I think his track record has proven it as far as what we did in Northern Colorado and what we've been able to do here so far, and we still have a long way to go this season. But there's not. I mean, I've been fortunate to be around some really, really good coaches. I mean, worked for Tim Floyd at UTEP for 6 years, who was a phenomenal coach, coached in the NBA. Has coached a ton of pros. I mean, I learned so much from, and other assistants. Dick Hunsaker, who is really won a lot of games at Utah Valley, who I learned a lot from as well. And got a chance to work for my dad, who was an excellent college coach who's recently retired. So I've worked for good guys, and I've been able to learn a lot along the way. But with Coach Linder, there's just something a little bit different about him, man, as far as like his ability to see the game at pace, to understand what's important in the game. And it's not just, and he does have an innate ability to kind of just do that. That's kind of, I wouldn't say it's natural, because it's not natural for anyone, but great instincts, because I'm sure he had great instincts as a player as well. But I've never been around somebody that's worked as hard to be good as he has. And, we talk about what the games that we've won, but the thing that people don't see is like, in I don't know, when we're up here in May, when the guys are gone, it's May 18th, it's after finals, and he's not playing golf, he's not just hanging out and we're just sitting around kicking it in the office. He's in there studying, he's watching, and not just our stuff. I mean, he watches so many other people at different levels. He's just a student of the game that just he's the hardest working guy I've ever been around, and which elevates the rest of us in the staff, because if your boss is working that hard, you better work that hard too. And so with him, I mean, I'm just grateful that I got the opportunity to go to Northern Colorado with him. It was a little bit of a leap of faith, and some people probably thought I was crazy to leave UTEP and go there, but I kind of knew, us having gotten to know each other, that how smart of a guy he was, and the success they'd had at Boise with him as the associate head coach. I knew that he had a lot to do with that. And so it was a tough decision, but I knew it was the right decision. And I've been fortunate. I've, zero regrets and only positive since then. And then, I mean, looking at Northern Colorado, I mean, we had fantastic staff, and obviously Steve Smiley's the head coach there now, and Coach Smiley's having success and is going to have a ton of success as a Division I head coach. Worked with great guys like Dorian Green and Vinny McGee. Dorian's still at the UNC, and Vinny's at San Francisco on the staff there. And those two guys are phenomenal. And then here, I mean, you got two guys on staff that have been head coaches at the Division II level and have had success.
I meant to say that last night. I didn't say that. I didn't mean to say it. I take it back. I was thinking, I didn't even say that. They have been
No,
head coach, and you will be a head
I mean,
coach as well.
yeah. Well, I hope so. I hope you're right. I mean, one day, but I mean, and Coach Wicks, I mean, and Coach Vandiver had so much to do with that last night. Like I said, I just tried to kind of get out of the way and let those guys, let the players do what they know how to play, and let the coaches do what they knew how to do in coaching. And that had nothing to do with me, man. That was all the preparation that we've done every day as a staff and as a program. And I just, like I said, just tried not to screw it up.
Right. Well, you didn't follow it by getting any technical fouls or even getting on the rest. That was a good start.
That would be a bad look. I've seen that before. Hey, I had that game, and if you want to look at it, you can look it up on YouTube. Look up Tim Floyd ejection at East Carolina. If you guys hadn't seen that one, that's an all-timer. When I was at UTEP with Coach Floyd, he got ejected in our first year there, and at East Carolina, and then immediately, almost immediately, I think it was like about a minute and a half, maybe, of game time after, Phil Johnson, who was our associate head coach and is a fantastic coach, got ejected about a minute and a half after. So it got down to me, and it was like me and Greg Foster, who was on our staff at the time, trying to piece it together. But yeah, I've kind of been in one of those before.
So you've been in that one, and then you had one in New Mexico last year. So I mean, are we 3-0 right now as a coach, or are we 2-1?
No, I can't claim the one back in the UTEP days, man. I was kind of a little bit more of a bystander in that one, but no, it's I've been a part of a few notable ejections, I guess.
A few of them, and your time is coming. As we all know, and if the world didn't have an idea before, although it takes a village to have the poise and that kind of a magnitude of game, and with those kind of stakes and that kind of odds kind of a little bit against you, right, wrong, or indifferent, because AK's out and Maldonado's kind of hobbled, and there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, Maldonado coming out of the tunnel like Willis Reed in the Garden back in the day. Made the recovery.
I feel like I was watching, like, what's the movie with Lil Bow Wow? And I feel like there was a moment in there where, like, the little Air Bud. I feel like it was like one of those moments. I took it back there. All right, funny story before you go. Anything you got? Whether it's so the guys did tell us your players who we recognize as players of the week in the conference. They did tell us about karaokeing last year, and they said Coach Linder kind of took over a little bit. He jumped out there, and your trainer, they gave him some love. So anything you got behind the scenes you want to share, we always like.
That's a great story. We were kind of just needed to have a little fun and let off a little steam. And that's last year when we were doing those back-to-backs, and you'd go and stay a place. And that was when we were playing New Mexico at Air Force, which was that whole weekend was kind of crazy. We actually the game that Coach Linder got ejected, I think it's the same one. They all kind of run together at this point, but there was like a borderline blizzard in Colorado Springs, and so it took us it takes like 20 minutes to go from where we stayed in the Springs to go to the academy to play the game. And I mean, it took us like an hour and 20 minutes, and we got there. I think they ended up putting like 10 minutes extra for us to warm up. We got there with what would have been about 20 minutes left before tip. So that was a crazy trip. But yeah, the karaoke thing was something I'll always remember. We had a little Chief Keef out there from the fellas. That was memorable.
What was I guess the funny story should be, what was your song? What did you sing?
I didn't sing.
You didn't sing.
I didn't sing, man.
You got off the hook.
No, I'm more of a little bit behind the scenes when it comes to karaoke.
In other words, there's no behind the scenes in karaoke, Coach. It's either you participate or you don't.
I didn't participate. I was a spectator. I was a heckler, actually, is probably the better way to put it. I critiqued and criticized, but did not participate.
I think I got to plant a seed for this year. So if you guys do karaoke again, Coach DEWEESE has to go first to set the tone.
I don't know how good that would be. That would not be good. But I will say our trainer Dallas Fickner was awesome. He sang some Garth Brooks, and I mean that kind of set it off a little bit.
I heard you got to show your Texas roots, man. You're like a real Texas guy, born and raised. So
yeah, I'm a little. I might have to. They might not like my late '90s, early 2000s Houston underground rap that I would try and karaoke. I don't think anybody would know what I was doing. Got there some Fat Pat or something like that.
You should do a little wow, little Mike Jones.
little Kiki, some Paul Wall, something like that,
Oh,
man.
well,
They'd be
yeah.
confused.
There you go. There you go. They won't even know what hitting them. Like, yo, what's coach doing? Well, Coach, we appreciate it, man. Exciting times in Wyoming. Wyoming week continues. Super hyped for you guys to be able to just obviously
Every week is Wyoming week, Burton. Every week is Wyoming week.
When you're in Wyoming, but for the rest of the world, it's never Wyoming week. Just make sure we say that. So we've seen this background more on this show than we've ever seen it. We're not mad at it though. We appreciate it.
No, it looks
Great
good.
job last night. I have to say that again. That was not an easy. It wasn't easy for anyone in the building. I think everybody was on it was just uncomfortable. Even it's not about wins and losses only, but just to work that hard and be in a position where you want to have the best players and best coaches, like you said, in games like that. That's what you schedule those games for. So to have that happen was just almost just like, this isn't right. But to Wyoming credit and Utah State, great game. John Rothstein watched the game supposedly, and he says now there's 5 teams. I don't know if he watched the game or he had like somebody else watch for him, but he got the communication across the desk. And
was it a standalone game?
Oh man,
Utah State it should be in, and it should be 5 teams. What do you think about the 5-team concept?
I mean, I guess it kind of always depends on how other leagues play out. I think this league is exceptional. I think it's as good as it's been in a long, long time. I guess it was 2013, I believe, when the last time there was 5 bids. I think the league getting 2 bids last year was borderline criminal. I think Colorado State and Boise should have both been in. I think Utah State is excellent, and they've come in and Coach Odom and his staff have come in a difficult situation because of the success that they've had previous with Craig Smith and his staff, and have really not missed much of a beat. And especially when losing some of their better players that would have been returning to the University of Utah. So tons of credit to those guys. I mean, Coach Odom and his guys are, a fantastic staff and program, and he's done a heck of a job in a weird situation. But 5, I think we're really close. I think 4 teams for sure deserve to be in. Hopefully that we don't cannibalize each other here as we get down the stretch, and we can get, at the very least 3. But I think we've earned it. I really do. I think a bunch of us have earned it, and I want that for the league profile. Hopefully we're one of those 4 or potentially 5 that gets in, but hopefully we can make it work because I think we deserve it.
Yep, no doubt. Well, you definitely do. Keep up the good work. Keep having fun. I want to hear about the karaoke before the end of the year, Coach. I want to hear.
All right, we'll see what we can do.
When the bid happens, karaoke with DEWEESE is what I'm going to tweet out.
Hey, if we get into the NCAA tournament, I'll sing whatever somebody chooses. That'd be an easy trade.
I like it. Well, Coach, thanks for taking the time. Congrats and success. Keep up the great work.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, the closer now. We got Eli. Another great interview. Eli breaks it all down. And obviously, we've talked about the team with Linder. We've talked now with 2 of the best players. Now we talk with one of the important staff members. They have many. And Eli will break it down in a different way this time because Eli's that good.
Man. Put on the hot spot just like Kenny was last night in unusual circumstances. And we talk about this a lot with different teams. Every single team that makes it to the bracket, every single team that is knocking on the door of the bracket has nights like Tuesday night where things just don't go right. And I think still picking up a victory against a very good Utah State team says a lot about where this group is at. And I think it was Linder who said that, or it might have been Hunter instead. One of the guys said that this just is not a game that they would have won last year. And I think that's just a testament to where the leadership is at. And Kenny talked about this, how you have probably 2 of the possibly the best duo in the nation, at least as far as scoring is concerned, with Graham Ike and Hunter Maldonado. But there is no sort of ego, at least externally, that you can see with this team because the roles are so defined. With Jeremiah Oden, who's been so effective, Drake Jeffries. It's a tough one to say sometimes. I'm sure you've stumbled on that one a couple times.
I have. I actually have. I have.
It's tough. But the roles are very defined on this team. And I think even the fact that Maldonado is such a great scorer, he's a wonderful passer too. And Ike provides so many extra possessions for this team with the way he rebounds. And I think just the way they came together Tuesday night and just collectively gathered as a unit and got the job done. It's another huge win on the resume. And we talked about this about a week and a half ago, this stretch coming up for Wyoming when we were thinking this team was good. And I said, go 2-2 and you have a shot at dancing. They're 4-0 now in the stretch. And they've got one more road game against that top tier. And otherwise, it's games that you should win as opposed to games that you may be able to win. So they're, in large part, they're in control of their destiny as far as getting a bid. And it's been amazing to see what this team, again, has done in year 2 under Linder, because year 2, Northern Colorado, this team was picked 7th in the Big Sky poll, won the CIT, set the school record for wins. This year picked 8th in year 2 for Linder, breaking more program records, going for another tournament bid. So it's just been really impressive what this team has done.
No doubt. Couldn't agree more. Coach DeWeese in the fire, along with Coach Wicks, along with Coach V, did such a great job. Excited to see what this conference continues to do as we keep breaking it down. But this particular team, I believe, is anytime you're picked in the 8th kind of range of things, and then you win it, you're in first place. We all love those stories, right?
Yeah.
So Wyoming's well deserved to get the attention that they've gotten. Just excited to see what they continue to do. So for us here at Mountain West Hoops Insider, we are done. We'll catch you next week with a full episode. I think you guys have gotten enough for now. So next week, another full episode, and we'll have some fun with it.